Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to everyone who is joining. We will wait one more minute before we start with the launch event. Il y a la possibilité de choisir la langue. On a la traduction en français. C'est possible de choisir la langue avec l'icône. Oui. You can choose language in the bar below and choose between French and English. This event will be translated. So let's start the webinar, I would say. Welcome to everyone. We are very happy to have you as participants. And to have you with us celebrating our Scale for Resilience launch event in Africa. We'd actually be very happy to hear from you from where you're participating. And maybe you want to share that in the chat with us in these times that we have had so many Zoom meetings. It's sometimes nice to share a sense of community. So please feel free. So I am Sabrina. I am the coordinator of the Scale for Resilience initiative. As said, I'm very happy and proud to be launching our initiative in Africa. And I will guide you through this event today and want to share with you what we will actually expect today. And also, if you have any questions or comments, please anytime feel free to comment in the chat. So yes, today we will have some very interesting discussions, some very interesting guests among us. So first of all, we will have some opening remarks from Nigel Topping, the high-level champion for climate action COP26. Then I will explain you what Scale for Resilience actually is, why we as an initiative exist, and why climate adaptation, action, and finance is so important. After that, Lucy Molenke, our guest and advisory board co-chair of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, will give us a meta perspective to local adaptation and resilience on the ground. We will then have a panel discussion with our initiators of the Scale for Resilience initiative, among which are Daisy Martinez Barron, the regional director of the CGIAR research program on climate change, agriculture, and food security. We do have on the panel as well Christoph Jungfleisch, Managing Director and founder of Yapu Solutions, as well as Luca Torre, co-founder and co-CEO of Gava Capital. We're also very excited to have Andre Yom with us. He will be giving us the perspective of a microfinance institution that actually went green and offers now green inclusive finance for their clients, and will share his experience with us. After the panel, sorry, I stepped one step ahead. After the panel, we will have the chance for Q&A session, and after Andre's presentation, actually we'll have a quick introduction of the Yapu software, a software that makes climate adaptation finance operational. And with that, I'm handing over the word to Nigel Topping. He's not here with us presentially, but he did a recording that I will share with you now.
Good morning. Bonjour, bienvenue. Welcome, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be able to zoom in and join today's fantastic Scale for Resilience event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nigel Topping. I'm the high-level climate action champion for COP26, and I have the honor and the pleasure of championing the great work of initiatives like Scale for Resilience as part of the Race to Resilience campaign. Unfortunately, I can't be with you in person. I'm actually taking some time off recover from the massive sprint towards COP26. But I'm delighted to be able to join you virtually because I think this issue of building resilience systemically in the smallholder farming communities and in Africa in particular is absolutely crucial. And it's something that I can promise you there'll be a big focus on in the road to COP27 in Africa, hosted by Egypt next year. So I think it's very appropriate to be talking about this today. And today we're going to hear about some of those key questions around resilience. Why microfinance institutions play such a crucial role towards facilitating local climate change adaptation, and why collaboration across the entire financial value chain is so important to increase resilience. So it's great to see Scale for Resilience taking up the mantle of mobilizing finance to where it's needed by focusing on smallholder farmers and rural communities across Africa. Because we know that smallholder farmers feed the world. They produce around 80% of food supply in emerging and developing countries. And of course, they're guardians of generational knowledge, of ancient knowledge about the ecosystems they live in. And yet they are amongst the most vulnerable communities on this planet, often highly exposed to the impact of climate change that's already with us, unprecedented severe weather events that threaten their livelihoods, even though they've done among the least to cause climate change, which means that rural communities everywhere are having to adapt to the climate crisis. And of course, they're not waiting. We know that they're already acting with resource, with ingenuity, as we all must. But we also know there's a need for more global solidarity. I mean, we've seen communities experimenting with new crop varieties, with water retention systems, and supporting each other to find solutions, and yet they often lack the tools, the agricultural inputs, the extension services, the financial tools to create the kind of coping strategies that are needed. And we know that one of the most important inputs to make adaptation to climate change possible is access to finance for nature-based solutions. So the fact that the Scale for Resilience initiative is dedicated to doing exactly that, to creating access to finance for smallholder farmers so that they can develop and implement nature-based solutions is fantastic. And it's great to see that this work is building off successful work already happening in Latin America, where Race to Resilience is seeing the work of Scale for Resilience as one of the key initiatives for the smallholder farmers communities. And I was delighted to be able to hear Daisy speaking about this at COP26. Now, importantly, Scale for Resilience is addressing the entire value chain, from investors to microfinance institutions, and connecting that chain to smallholder farmers, and also leveraging the digital tools that are needed, that both enable but are needed to implement these solutions, which reduces the complexity, increases transparency, and enables the kind of site-specific nature-based adaptation, which is so crucial. So we know that this is a vital tool to address physical, cultural, and digital access gaps for financing resilient action. And I want in particular to applaud, to champion, that's my job, the work of the founders of the Scale for Resilience initiative, Yapu Solutions, Gawa Capital, and the CGIAR and their climate change, agricultural and food security program. All of them have worked incredibly hard to create this initiative and risen to the challenge that Gonzalo and I laid down, that the Race to Resilience should seek to address the resilience needs by 2030 of 4 billion people from the most vulnerable communities, smallholder farmers being one of those. And I'm really confident, and through this initiative, that the current barriers to financing climate change and adaptation solutions can be broken. So let me leave you with the simple ask: join the cause. We know we cannot tackle the climate crisis if we don't build the resilience of the systems that connect all of us. The food system is the most fundamental of those. And that starts by getting more finance and skills to initiatives like Scale for Resilience, so that they can get the finance and skills to the communities they're working with. So I invite all representatives today from financial institutions, from cooperatives, from investors to listen and reflect on how they can contribute to the great work that Scale for Resilience is doing. Thank you to everybody, and I look forward to doing whatever I can to support this crucial work going forward on the road to COP27 in Africa next year. Thank you.
So yes, even though we can't hear it, we're very grateful for these opening remarks, because it really explains the larger frame of our initiative, why we exist, and what Race to Resilience as a global campaign is actually also doing to enhance climate adaptation. Oh, sorry. Yes, now I will give you some background again. I mean, Nigel already stressed it, why climate adaptation is so important, and I will give you more background on it now, some numbers, some whys, and also explaining the hows. How can we respond and solve these major barriers? So, as you might know, in the Paris Agreement 2015, it has been agreed of the global community to dedicate 50% of climate finance towards climate mitigation and 50% towards climate adaptation. Just a quick explanation what the differences between these two concepts are. So climate mitigation means to cut down, reduce, and avoid greenhouse gas emissions, while climate adaptation means how our society can alter and create systems, how we can adapt and protect our economies and ecosystems as well from a changing climate. And it has also been stressed now more than ever on different conferences from Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, that it's very urgent that we mobilize climate adaptation finance equally. So much in theory, and now I will show you how it's actually looking, how is the status quo actually looking. So right now we do see that only 5% of climate finance go towards climate adaptation. And this major gap needs to be urgently addressed in the future. And this is the reason why the Race to Resilience campaign has been founded, why Scale for Resilience as an initiative exists. And especially, it's especially important because only a fragment of climate adaptation finance goes towards climate resilience for local communities. And even though local communities and especially smallholder farmers are so crucial for entire countries' food security, we've heard it from Nigel, they're at the same time most vulnerable to climate shocks and climate risks. And it's very crucial that we, together with these communities, develop channels how we can actually dedicate climate resilience finance to these communities, because as said, as they are very vulnerable to climate risks, they're also keepers and guardians of ecosystems and ancient knowledge about nature-based solutions. They just oftentimes can't step over the barriers that exist to access finance, for example, for these solutions. Now, a couple of words about Race to Resilience campaign again. So the Race to Resilience is this global campaign that really strives towards creating a step change towards climate adaptation action. And this campaign is very special because it tries to unite all initiatives on the planet, basically, and to create a common framework on how to measure resilience and climate adaptation action. And Nigel Topping has already said it, that the campaign strives to make 4 billion people from vulnerable communities and groups more resilient to climate risks. Just a quick explanation maybe here to what climate resilience actually means, because climate resilience is a very, very difficult concept to grasp. And there are various definitions out there. But for us, and in this context, climate resilience refers to the capacity of individuals to react to a changing climate and to changing conditions, and to adapt and recover from external shocks, and to really develop mechanisms and coping strategies to climate risks that they are experiencing. I did mention this. I don't want to frighten you with this framework. It's actually a very important framework, and the essence of this slide is basically that the Race to Resilience as a campaign is creating a framework on how to measure climate resilience. And that's very important because oftentimes the lack of metrics and indicators is the reason why we don't manage to mobilize really climate adaptation finance at scale. And yes, what role does Scale for Resilience play in this game? As said, the Scale for Resilience initiative is part of Race to Resilience. We are a group of people who really realize that we have to collaborate together to address these major challenges. We cannot look at only one aspect in the financial value chain. We really have to unite forces to create a step change and to be at the spearhead of mobilization of climate adaptation finance. And this is why in March this year, the Scale for Resilience initiative has been initiated by Yapu Solutions, by CCAFs, and GABA Capital. And I'm very proud and happy to be here today, now launching the initiative in Africa after we had a launch event in Latin America. Our initiative is growing. We're gathering more and more members and are looking forward to the journey on how to lead the transformation towards climate adaptation finance. We're also very proud to say that we, as a very young initiative, have already had good representation and visibility on COP26. So one of our members, Claudia Moreno, the co-director of the Ecuadorian microfinance institution, ESPUIR, has had the chance to participate in a panel at COP26 on the Resilience Hub. This was actually the first Resilience Hub ever on a COP. And then Daisy had the chance to meet former US President Barack Obama and was able to tell him on a closed plenary session of the high-level champions about Scale for Resilience. And yeah, we're very, very proud and happy to have had this good visibility and representation at COP. Now, what do we actually want to do? Now, I explained you a lot about the why and how, and now I want to tell you more about our specific objectives and missions as an initiative, So we pledge to make 3 million smallholder farmers worldwide more resilient with the participation of 100 microfinance institutions and $5 billion in loans disbursed. And our specific objectives are twofold. So first, we want to create gender inclusive access to finance for nature-based solutions for smallholder farmers. And the second objective is that we want to facilitate conditions and mechanisms to finance nature-based solutions. And this is how our ecosystem actually looks like. As I said, it's so crucial to foster collaboration, and that's very important for us as an initiative, that we want in the entire financial value chain to create trust among all actors, to create trust between MFIs and investors and facilitators and research institutes. And at the heart of this ecosystem is the Yapu Solutions software that creates visibility and actually levels the Scale for Resilience up to be driven forward with digital tools. We will hear more about that later on, how this actually works in detail. You might have wondered why we do focus on MFIs. So microfinance institutions are local agents of change. They are part of the communities. They understand the specific local context of where they're based at. They constantly want to improve their services for their clients. And one very important aspect here is that microfinance institutions directly benefit from more resilient clients. And the other aspect to why microfinance institutions are so important is that they're collecting data on a daily basis. And this data intelligence is so important to really move forward in resilience action, because we really need to understand what resilience means and what resilience finance actually means. Nature-based solutions is also a concept that I have mentioned, and I just want to explain to you quickly what it means to create a common understanding. So nature-based solutions are actually very powerful tools. Nigel has mentioned a couple. Nature-based solutions, for example, mean agroforestry system, drip irrigation and water retention systems, organic composting systems, etc. So there are a lot of examples, and also a lot of examples that are driven and fostered by local communities already. And they have the power to actually protect, sustainably manage and restore natural and modified ecosystems. And the interesting thing about it, and that's the business case about nature-based solutions, that every dollar invested in nature-based solutions, of course, depending on the type of nature-based solutions, can generate a benefit of up to US dollars worth of benefits. Yes, talking about benefits, not only of nature-based solutions, but also of our initiative and why you should join the initiative as an investor, as a cooperative, as a research institute, a startup, or also a microfinance institution. So one important part for us is the part of exchange. We really want members to learn from each other, and we want to create the possibility for members that join to be able to have a trial access to the APO software. We want to create access to a green finance ecosystem where contacts can be made, and the possibility to develop projects together in different contexts. And then, of course, as you have seen, we've had great representation at COP26 and already other events as well, that we do really create high visibility for our members. There are a couple of responsibilities connected, of course, as well. So one is, and that's crucial, the reporting. Because in terms of really to measure resilience and to contribute to this framework of the Race to Resilience Initiative campaign, we have to be able to measure what our members in the initiative are actually doing in terms of resilience. Then one part is communication. Of course, an initiative lives from the vivid communication of the members and the participation in events and formats. And now I'm coming to an end with the Scale for Resilience presentation. I want to give the floor now to you, Lucy. It's a great honor to have you as a guest, and I'm very happy that you will provide us with a perspective of local resilience and what that actually means, what the challenges are, and yeah, happy to give the word to you.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, and thank you to you all. And I'm really very happy. I'm very happy to be invited, and I hope you can hear me. It's really wonderful to listen to what Nigel has already told us in the opening, and also your explanation, because it brings us to where we really want to focus on issues of conservation, especially when we look at that. Then somebody from the audience would wonder, finance environmental issues, conservation, how do they relate, and why are we discussing that? Simply because we are looking at nature-based solutions and also looking at different ways that we can be able to work with the communities at the ground level. And why I'm so happy about is that this lounge is for Africa. I'm from Africa. And to me, this is something that is very important and very involving, and that will give hope also to Africa to be able to get involved. And as you were saying, to get as many partners that you can be able to work with them in future. And really looking at also that it is focusing on most vulnerable communities, as they call them, the indigenous people, local communities, smallholders, farmers, fisher folks, and also rural communities. And these groups of populations have been, practicing nature-based solutions in their community, in their own farms, and in their own areas for a very long time. But when they do it just because it's naturally theirs, it's naturally of what they normally do. So it's really something that they have. But now we are looking at different issues to see how the whole world has been changed by climate change and other issues that have come along, like pandemics and so on. And so we have to look at how we can work with those communities to be able to upscale and also to come up with solutions and help them and be able to have, so that they can be able to embrace technology, which is already there in the world, and that can help them actually to be able to improve with their work, and also access mechanism for resource mobilization by addressing the financial value chain that has already been mentioned, which is normally a big challenge for the communities, even though they have those small cooperatives and also have been working with micro finance companies and organizations. And this particular process that you have and which you are launching now will be able to build capacity and also be able to help them look at the financing and also how they can quickly connect with the investors and be able to work with them. And of course, that technology, which has always been missing. And I like the idea of the way Yapui organization is going to look at that particular side of technology. And if you look, Nigel has given some of the data that we already have, but let me just give a little bit more, just a few points more. And this is according to different key players in development and looking at issues of agriculture, because we are talking about small scale farmers and they include also the different kind of farming. It could be a livestock, it could be agriculture and so on. But the main one is the agriculture. And we have reports from IFAD, which say that there are around 500 million smallholders farms in the world. They provide 80% of food consumed in both Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. And you remember Nigel mentioned that a little bit about the 80%. So this is very crucial for sub-Saharan Africa, for Africa in general. And we also have other reports that tell us from IUCN that restoring is 12% of degraded agriculture land could feed over 200 million people annually within the 15 years. So you can imagine if we restore this agricultural land and be able to look at it very keenly, it can be able to feed as many people as 200 million people. So we really need to take action. I'm bringing this information because it's important to see that as we speak about scaling resilience and nature-based solution, we also have to have that data. Where are we doing it and what is important in it? And according to UNEP also, ending hunger by 2025 requires additional $44 billion per year, $44 billion per year. Yet we are losing production and ecosystem services worth 40 billion a year. So we see we have this balance where we have to look at it very keenly. And if you hear that figure and look at the ground level and see what's happening in the region of Africa, it's very crucial that we take action and we see how we can integrate many issues together as we continue looking at issues of finance. So this is just what I wanted to bring as part of the addition to what the data you have just mentioned. And as we discuss, this initiative is also very important to ensure that the targeted groups that we already are planning to work with, the communities are the stakeholders and also the farmers, we need to make sure that they understand what we are talking about and that they can work together and also be able to really network and look at the scale for resilience and understand it and understand the importance of it and looking at nature-based solutions, already what they have in them, so that we can be having an enabling environment to work together with the different stakeholders, especially when it comes to the positive positive way of resource mobilization and access to finance for these vulnerable groups by the year 2030. And without that, it's very important also to make sure that at least we can be able to create that awareness so that they can, even issues of adaptation, they can be able to pick them very quickly. As we know that we have had discussions on climate change, and I like the way you are explaining and the examples which were brought also from Paris Agreement and also for the outcome of the Glasgow meeting, which has just been going on. And quite a lot was being discussed, and indigenous people and other communities, farmers, small scale farmers, were also there to try and explain different issues. And we know that there is also discussion in different forums. And for example, we have issues of biodiversity, which we look at them and look at how can they be financed. We are right now discussing in the past few years on the issue of the post-20 global biodiversity framework, where we are making sure that at least the issues of including indigenous people, local communities and other stakeholders, and especially farmers and all the other stakeholders, women and so on, to make sure that they also take through and be able to understand why we are discussing this and why we need finance and how can this be mobilized. And it's very important that now the private sector has come in, especially on discussion on climate change, which we hope is going to be positive, especially for Africa, to look at it and to have adaptation and mitigation strategies as we're having right now with the different key players that are representing today. And why? Because if you go down to the ground again, it's very important to understand the aspects of those adaptation and mitigation strategies that already the communities have put in place, because the communities are mostly resilient also. They do a lot of work and they know how they can adapt. And it's very stressful because at the same time, they need to have that finance. And the finance is always the challenge. Where do we get it from? How do we get money to do our own adaptation activities and to be able to manage, as what Nigel was saying earlier on? And as we look at this finance, as we look at nature-based solution, it's also important as looking on the ground level to look at the ecosystems that we have mentioned. How do we look at the already degraded, already stressed environment that we have because of many other activities that have happened, issues of climate change, issues of desertification, because we are in Africa. So we have the lands of the people have already been very much degraded. And we need to look at the ecosystem restoration, because all of us, the world, we are scared, we are worried that if we don't restore that ecosystem, then we will not be going very far away, even in having these micro credit, or even for the farmers to be able to produce. Already in the community, they have lost even touch on how, when is it to plant, when is it to harvest, and when are the rains coming, and so on. So we need to look at this ecosystem also and try to restore it so that we can be able to change the environment and restore the biodiversity that has already lost, and also manage climate change and reduce degradation, especially with our desertification that really occupies a lot of our areas in Africa. And that's why also it's very important to mention about the ecosystem, the UN decade on the ecosystem restoration, which is 2021. The year is ending, but it's going on up to 2030. And a lot of work that has already been going on. There are many activities that has taken place, and some of the reports differently done and so on. And we have an advisory group that has already been guiding and advising the ecosystem restoration process to see how it can go. And many people globally are really working so hard to make sure that we can be able to reach our goals. And by the time we get to 2030, we are able to see the difference in our ecosystem restoration. And later on, I'll be able to post some of the conduct that you can be able to go to read about many of those reports that I'm mentioning. And why am I mentioning all this? Why am I talking about ecosystem restoration? As I had said earlier on, and I am talking about it because coming from the ground and working with communities, I find it very, very important, because all over where we are, we have to make sure that we integrate what we are producing in the farm to make sure that we have a balance and to have a healthy environment. And I'm saying that because ecosystem restoration delivers multiple benefits. It delivers nature-based solutions, which we are talking for societal challenges that are already experienced, as I mentioned. It supports food security, which is important for all of us. And I think Nigel mentioned very well. And with the mind that small-scale farmers, women, and all of us need that food, and we need a healthy environment. So that's why we are trying as much as possible to ensure that we talk about the ecosystem restoration. And at the same time, as we talk that, we know we cannot be able to achieve any of those goals or even any of those finances that we are saying without working together, without being able to be inclusive, to create awareness and build capacity for the communities to understand, even on issues of microcredit, because every other time, if there is an opportunity, the communities need really to make sure that they are included and they participate. And so as we deal with all that, and even for the sustainable development goals, we must make sure we work together, and we really must be able to look at it as holistically and to have that human rights approach so that we can be able to achieve our goals. And we must know that humanity, we are all part of the nature. We are all nature. We all breathe biodiversity. We are part of biodiversity. We are part of nature. And we really need to recreate and restore our relationship with our ecosystem that I have mentioned, because it's sustained us. We must start now. We must make sure that we look at it. And as we do any other issues, we should also make sure that we do that so that we can fight poverty, because we are all driving towards these goals of ensuring there is finance for climate change, ensuring that the small scale farmers and others that are able to really have a change in life by the time it's 2030, and also be able to manage disasters, pandemics, and even be able to make their families be better than they are. And so, as we discussed, it's also very important to make sure that our governments coming from Africa, it's very, very important to urge our governments to really keep the commitments that they've done. In different meetings and different areas, they have said that they will plant 1 billion hectares of degraded land to change that. They'll plant 1 billion hectares of trees to make sure that they restore the degraded lands and waters, and of course, ensuring that the species that are extinct and which are very important for the farmers are restored. And we really urge them that they can keep those particular commitments that they have brought them up. And of course, as we continue to think about the scaling up, the resilience, it's very important that we make sure that we are inclusive. And already you are private sectors that are working, and financial partners that are working together, and also having other biodiversity organization, environmental friendly organizations that are working and looking at different issues. And it's important to look at public-private partnership, because this is very important for the finance and for the restoration of the activities and scaling up. So it's also important to make sure that we have a collective way of working together. As Indigenous people say, collectively working together, we succeed and we are able to move on forward and to make a successful way of going. But I also want to say that despite the fact that we are looking at ecosystem restoration, natural-based solutions, issues of climate change, it's very important to create awareness, and that is what I've almost emphasized throughout. And I say that it's important for different countries to look at different ways they can be able to create that awareness, and also give the information of what we are discussing today, looking at these different solutions of finances, technology, because this is very important. But before I even finish up, I would like to also emphasize the importance of working with women, Indigenous women and other women within our own societies, because these are the people who produce food, but they are the people who are always forgotten. They are not included in terms of microfinance, in terms of thinking them that they can borrow money and do something. They have to do that small scale way of doing their own societies, as we call them in Africa. In Kenya, we call them SACCOs and so on. These are societies that they work together and be able to borrow money to do some scale, activities. But remember, we're looking at the same women, they carry knowledge. They have knowledge because they're the ones who produce food. They have this traditional knowledge, especially for Indigenous women and even for the farmers themselves, on biodiversity. And they really are the ones who are able to tell us, give us a lot of knowledge in terms of looking at the different ways on food production, and also keeping us healthy, because they are the ones who know the kind of medicinal plants, the kind of plants that they have to have, and the kind of food that the family eats to keep them healthy and to be able to know. So we must recognize their vital role in terms of looking at the production and also the work that they do. So as we discuss and as we continue having more people discussing different issues, is important to have that holistic way of living, of looking at different stakeholders who are playing the role in terms of looking at the scaling up of resilience, so that we can be able to be successful and work together as a family as we move on. Thank you very much, Sabrina, and I hope we can pick up some of the issues later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I found it especially important that you highlighted the role of women and that these holistic initiatives need to be gender inclusive. Thank you so much. We will now move on to our panel discussion. Just a second. Yeah. So welcome to the panel, Daisy, Luca, Christoph, and Lucy. Daisy, I want to start with you, and I want to learn from you why you as CCAF joined the Scale for Resilience initiative and how it complements your current activities.
Thank you, Sabrina, for the invitation to the panel. And yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to be here today, launching also the initiative Scale for Resilience in Africa, as we did in Latin America. We joined the initiative with you, with Yapu and Gawa Capital. We saw that it was a very interesting opportunity to really provide inputs that come from the science that we do at the CGIAR and the program that I'm part of in terms of climate change, agriculture, and food security. So one of the things that we really focus on is to generate science to achieve real impacts on the ground. So we seek to provide scientific solutions that harness agricultural biodiversity and transform food systems in a sustainable way to improve people's lives during a climate crisis. Maybe you can click again. I don't know if there's a map that is supposed to come out. Yeah, perfect. So we work around the world doing science with different partners, stakeholders, and the idea is that that science that we provide is useful to for the decision-making processes at the local, national, regional, and global levels. So as you can see, we in CCAPS, in the CGR research program on climate change, agriculture, and food security, we focus our work in these 5 regions on CCAPS in Latin America, in Africa, West Africa, East Africa, but also in Asia, and South Asia, and Southeast Asia. And the Alliance Biodiversity CR, which is the center that leads our work on the research program, is also present in that diversity of countries in these regions. And what we do is basically to join the knowledge that we have from different universities, but also research centers with the partners on the ground. And that is one of the key aspects that we have been trying to achieve since almost 50 years now of experience doing research in agriculture for development. We have presence in around 108 countries in which we have hundreds of expert scientists in agriculture, livestock, fisheries, agroforestry, climate, and social sciences for development, working to address the main challenges of the food system. We are aware of the urgency of acting against the effects of climate change, and that is our focus in terms of the research that we do. We know the smallholder farmers who provide the world with food are one of the populations most vulnerable to climate variability, and we heard from Lucy and also from Nigel that mentioned that as well. So building resilience in rural communities is about ensuring a sustainable future for our food systems. In addition, ambitious targets need to be set to transform food systems in the context of climate change. These goals must be connected to innovative financing approaches that enable rapid transformation to achieve them. In this sense, we, CCAPS, and the Alliance Biodiversity SEAC, have joined this initiative for the Scale for Resilience to make science-based methods and tools available to inform the investments and models that will support unlocking climate finance for adaptation across different scales. CCAPS has also prioritized West Africa region to carry out tailored and outcome-oriented research. We have over 10 years of experience generating more than 3,000 publications on agricultural systems, climate change, and rural development in Burkina Faso, Ghana, Mali, Niger, and Senegal. Next slide, please. Yeah, so strategic alliances are crucial, and that is also one of the invitations that we want to make to all of you that are part of this webinar. Because we have on one side the evidence, the data. As I mentioned, we provide analysis of data in terms of agroclimatic information on local scale. We co-design tailored and science-based solutions that increase the resilience of producers and their production systems. And we also have the capacity to quantify the benefits and co-benefits of adaptation and mitigation of climate change, as well as design indicators to measure the climate resilience and the improvement of livelihoods. And together with Yapu and Gao Capital, we have the knowledge of global financial markets. They know how to develop financial tools tailored to local conditions, how to use digital tools, for example. Yapu has a lot of experience on that to really facilitate microfinance institutions to work towards resilience and nature-based solutions. They know the strategic impact of investment opportunities. So that's something that we are trying to assess, address in this initiative. And what we need also is the knowledge that we need in the local territories, in the local ground. And that's what the microfinance institutions have. They know firsthand the challenges and opportunities of producers. They are very close to them, and they have the mechanisms to materialize the efforts in real impact. So together with the microfinance institutions, you that are representing these financial institutions in Africa, in the countries that we are focusing on the initiative, and together with us, we can really make an effort and a significant progress towards increasing the resilience of farmers. Also mobilize capital flows towards sustainable investments and scaling up sustainable and climate-smart agriculture with nature-based solutions. So that summarizes why we are part of this initiative. On one hand, we have capacity to provide and we have knowledge to put in the hands of our partners. And on the other, we need partners and we need alliances to keep working towards increasing resilience.
Thank you very much, Daisy, for this view on data and how science can contribute to our initiative's ecosystem. Thank you for that. Now I would like to hand the word over to, to Luca. Welcome, Luca. Great to have you in the panel. Now I'd also like to hear from you why you as GABA Capital joined the Scale for Resilience initiative and what you are bringing to the table and what your current activities are as GABA Capital.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. It's a real pleasure to be here. So just 2 words about who we are so that all of you can have some context. GABA Capital is a fund management company focused on impact investing. We've been making investments in microfinance institutions since 2010. We've made so far about 45 investments in Latin America, Africa, and in Asia. This is for us a really strategic initiative because I think that microfinance is a bit at the crossroads. Until now, microfinance has been focusing on providing loans, primarily working capital loans, pretty standardized loans to low-income people. And I think that ourselves investors have been focusing on investing in the microfinance sector with the objective in mind of providing clients, final beneficiaries, with access to financial services. Well, I believe that this objective has been, for the most part, in Africa, maybe not as much yet, but certainly we're getting there. Access is, for the most part, not an issue anymore. If you're a poor person and you need access to a loan, you basically can get it. Now, the next challenge that we all have as a sector is not only to provide our clients, your clients, access to a loan, but we all need to make an effort to start providing solutions to problems. And I think that the issue with adaptation to climate change is absolutely a very, very relevant issue. It's key. So it's key that in microfinance sector, we play a major role in offering a solution to adaptation. This is a key issue for clients. Clients will face over the next 20 years a big challenge on adapting their activity, especially farmers, adapting to a new climate patterns. But it's also a key issue for microfinance institutions, not only because it's an opportunity to finance new assets, it's an opportunity to launch new products, but it's also, and Sabrina and others mentioned before, it's an opportunity to reduce credit risks. Because if your clients are not prepared to adapt to climate change in the future, then also credit quality might really suffer. So it is really a key issue that microfinance sector needs to address. The issue is that adaptation, it's a complex issue. I mean, we've been hearing on previous panelists, there's science involved, it's coordination, it's really a complex issue that only can be handled through an ecosystem approach. Well, different people, such as Daisy, such as Yapu that offers technological solutions, such as investors, that money that we can bring on the table as investors, we all need to get around the table and coordinating and trying to find the right solutions that you as a microfinance institution can then offer to your clients. So the reason why we decided to join this great initiative, and I highly encourage all of you on this call to join as well, is this: to solve this problem. Microfinance must start solving real people problem, not only loans. And to do so, to focus on adaptation, we all must get together and have really an ecosystem approach. At GABA Capital, we have 2 years ago, we're really trying to focus on this approach. For us, making investments is not our objective is not just making investments and deploy capital. Gawa Capital, the objective is to foster transformation at the financial system level, so that the beneficiary, final clients can actually benefit. And this might sound like really big words, but basically what we're, for example, just to give you an example of what I mean, 2 years ago, we launched a new fund, a 120 million euro fund, which we're still deploying. So I invite any MFI who join this call to contact me if they are in need of financing. This fund is focused on helping microfinance institutions in offering farmers better products, start getting basically into agricultural finance. The way we do it, we work with microfinance institutions that either are already working with farmers or microfinance institutions that want to work with farmers. And in addition to investments in the form of loans or equity capital, we do offer technical assistance as well to help the microfinance institution in this transition in getting into agricultural finance. Well, our next project goes well beyond that. Our next project, we would like to help microfinance institutions not only into getting into agricultural finance, but also helping microfinance institutions in get into natural-based solution and adaptation. So basically helping microfinance institutions to launch products that can finance assets that can help clients to be better adapted to climate change. So I'm very excited about Scales for Resilience. Again, I invite all of you to join. The more diverse this table, people around the table are, the better it will be for everybody, because we all need to learn from each other. This is a complex issue, and we need everybody around the table to try to solve it. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you very much, Luca, especially your last words on diversity and how to really enabling the strategic alliance with diversity. Thank you for that. Now I'm handing over the word to Christoph, because I also want to hear from you why you joined Scale for Resilience and what Yapo Solutions is actually doing.
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here. It's a great pleasure and honor. And yes, we are fighting for that initiative and against climate change in general for now several years. I have even prepared a couple of slides. Maybe we can jump to the first one. Because we are in the midst of what we just have heard before. So let's have a look at the numbers first. Yeah, we have heard about biodiversity finance, about financing nature-based solutions, adaptation finance, smallholder farmer finance. And those are just a couple of numbers of identified gaps of financing we need to address as humanity, as financial sectors worldwide. So we're talking about the opportunity that we will be financing about $300 billion on a yearly basis over the next coming years and decades, at least for adaptation finance. We have heard the logic behind international climate finance, 50% for adaptation mitigation, and the outlook there. Equally, smallholder farmers, we have heard there are important drivers for food security, making up of up to 80% of food production, and humanity is growing, right? So we expect by 2050, even 70% more food is needed. And this needs to be financed. And still largely, these populations are often still excluded from access to finance. And we have the new emerging topic of biodiversity finance. We know there's a gap up to 2030 of around $700 billion to be invested, but we are talking then of numbers much higher after that. That's emerging, and I think Lucy made a reference to it. But we are in an excellent position to ever get better and learn ever more about what the needs and possibilities are there. So we have really a huge opportunity there, and I want to focus more on the opportunity. We are playing as YAPU between SEAT and GAWA Capital. So we want to be able, and we are able to use science in order to better channel finance, especially private finance flows from international capital markets towards end beneficiaries. We can measure it, we can map it, we can label it, and we can monitor it. Next, please. So what do we see? Climate and nature finance are sort of the new paradigm in international financial markets. Sorry. Everybody is looking for triple bottom line returns. So this is clearly flanked also by social impact measurement initiatives. For nature and climate finance, there are two key concepts. So we see taxonomies coming up, such as the EU taxonomy, but we see that also in other countries. All big players, World Bank, UN organizations are promoting these. What does it mean? Well, I need to know if a loan, if an investment is basically green, brown, or gray. Yeah, so if it is beneficial to the environment in the fight against climate change, protecting biodiversity or not. And on the other hand, and that's the other side of the coin, is we start ever getting better in measuring risks. For that, we need data from SEAT, yeah, and we need to be able to translate that into very concrete solutions for end beneficiaries, for the financial sector, but also for the national governments and regional and even local governments in the different countries. So the financing of nature-based solutions fits that framework perfectly, and Scale for Resilience is representing it. As you have heard, Nigel, we are one of the few exclusively focusing on the financial angle, bringing together international capital markets and science. So we are supporting biodiversity and nature conservation, but also promoting climate and socio-economic resilience. So usually resilience to climate change, adaptation to climate change has a huge socio-economic and social aspect to it, because it's about taking care of the most vulnerable, helping them to take care of their own resilience. What are we doing there? Well, we are not only providing a software which is pretty nice to use and helps you to operationalize it, but we also create these capacities within financial sector players, but also their partners. So in many cases, we are not only working with microfinance institutions, but also with extension service providers for the agricultural sector, other providers of training and capacity building, and integrate them into digital ecosystems. All that is always flanked by data services which help you to clearly pinpoint what are the risks, what is the impact of a specific financing without increasing the complexity, especially for the front office operations. So all the people that do the commercial management and customer relationship management in the field. So we are very convinced, and this is basically the response of why we joined. We are convinced that we have never lived in a better moment to address the challenges of climate change. We have ever more data available. We have ever better tools available, such as ours, to manage this data and reduce complexity for different user groups. And there has never been more attention and more appetite from international capital markets. So join us in the Scale for Resilience in order to get going and make that a reality. What are we doing? Next one, please. And I will just quickly provide an overview. I will not delve into that slide. We are really working on a global scale with a very strong focus on Latin America and sub-Saharan Africa, especially West Africa. We have implemented and worked with international institutions such as Inter-American Development Bank, United Nations Program, or for the Green Climate Fund in the Central American Dry Corridor, but also international corporate banks such as BNP Paribas. It's all about, on different levels, how can we manage climate change in a more effective and more efficient way, channeling resources to where they are most needed. Next, please. So very concretely, It's all about data. I think that is pretty clear, not only to address risks, identify opportunities, but also to report to investors and make the climate rationale more obvious, more transparent, more traceable also, so that we can gather and attract more private capital specifically. Usually always leveraging limited public funds, but the private capital is really the one we need to unlock. And again, we have never been in a better situation for that. Our part is, well, we have a software platform. We calibrate the software platform to the specific needs of a program of an institution. So if you are a bank or a cooperative, we adjust it to your exact processes. We then help you to understand how to capture certain data, how to automatically evaluate risks and opportunities, financial terms and conditions, and have it in a prepared and predefined credit committee report. And based on the resulting disbursements and performance data coming out of the repayment of the loans, we then start to learn and we readjust and recalibrate the system. So it's a learning system. We are working with different data sources clearly, and that is in the microfinance sector at least, best practice, client declarations. Everything is of course mapped in geospatial areas and spheres. We integrate market data, sector data, so typical life cycles of sector dynamics, but also details, and especially for the smallholder farming sector, that's important, production details and climate details. So we automatically provide our customers and our partners with access to an automated assessment of climate risks and how potential investments mitigate these risks, because it's all about, in the end, to bring together investments into resilience, into adaptation, vis-a-vis concrete climate risks the end beneficiaries are facing. Smallholder farmers and rural communities, we are here to support. We are happy to be part of Scale for Resilience. Thank you everybody again for being here, and let's go on. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you very much, Christoph, for showing us actually how to make climate adaptation finance operational. Lucy, now that we have heard all the perspectives from the initiators of the Scale for Resilience initiative, what do you think is most important for local communities to manage actually resilience finance if they receive it? What is important? What do we have to pay attention to? What can you give us on our way as an initiative?
Thank you, Sabrina. I think the presentations were very, very clear and very interesting. And even Daisy from Latin America has explained already to see how important, how they did the work there, which was really very interesting. And this is one of the examples that you could almost have an exchange visit to the communities, or an exchange way of working together so that they can be able to learn from each other. And I think Luca brought up quite some very interesting issues, and especially talking about the ecosystem restoration, which is very key to me, environment issues. And everyone here looks that it's very important to integrate issues, not to just work in a single way. Just as everyone says that it's important that we all work together, and we are welcome to working and to joining this particular family that has already been born in Africa. And this is very important. And even though you are working only in the West African region, there is also quite a lot of communities out there, and very important knowing the fragile environment there. And Christoph, by bringing that technology is also very important. And I think one of the key issues that I've realized here is that you are all ready to be patient, to work with the communities, and to be able to work with partners very keenly. And that's very, very important. And to understand them, to know that they also have different levels in terms of understanding some of the issues. And it's very important to have that issue of making sure capacity building is there, and that you understand these particular communities. I already saw in the question and answers there somebody asking and talking about why it's important to take this to women in the rural areas, and that's how I had brought it up earlier, that those rural farmers out in the remote areas do not have these facilities. and they are never recognized, and their role is just food production so long as there's, you feed that family and you feed that community, no one thinks beyond that. But that is now what I can see this particular process is coming to look at beyond here. How are we looking at it beyond here, and how can we be able to scale up the resilience and be able to really make a difference in terms of looking by 2030, what have we made as a difference? What have those farmers, small scale farmers benefited? What are the rural women? What is the difference in their lives? Has it made any change? Have we restored biodiversity? Have we stopped degradation because of just stressing up our land because of lack of finances to be able to do other, to get other finance to help them manage other activities, and basically going out to destroy the environment because they want to sell it cheap and get money. So there is a lot that this is, and as the others were discussing, I was also saying that we should actually all try to join the system and try to join this particular process, all of us, so that we can work together. As Luca was saying, we work together, we have all these heads on the table, and we can see what ideas we bring each other and be able to exchange the knowledge and the successes that have already taken place. And especially on issues of technology, please ensure that you go straight up to where the people who need it really are. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for that perspective and for giving us these words on the path of the initiative. I have seen that there are a couple of questions in the Q&A sections. We are running out of time a little bit, but we will try to answer them. So there is one from Irene Oyuk, and she asks, I think MFIs can explore a pro-poor affordable climate risk insurance fund to cushion farmers from climate-related challenges that they face. Yes, actually the insurance attribute is very important as well. Maybe Christoph, you can contribute and answer to that remark from Irene.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have seen, and we have also piloted and worked partially also before YAPU in insurance schemes, primarily parametric, which bear the promise that they can be more cost effective, and that is basically the greatest challenge for insurance schemes there. Usually they have a high cost, and there is still too little, I think, in order to also promote access to investment funds to finance. There is still too little knowledge around operational knowledge around in order to flank a loan, for example, with an insurance in addition, and by effectively reducing interest rates for the actual investment. So yes, we are in fact also in touch and talking to a couple of reinsurers and insurers. It is a topic which we need to attend for any damage we cannot solve by adaptation. Adaptation will still be the key topic, yeah, also to reduce premiums potentially. And what we will see probably most or soon is really that we move towards risk-adjusted pricing for these investments, because we get an ever better view on the risks, and we can start to put a price tag on these. So yes, still public finance is required for that in order to promote market introduction. There are cultural barriers, there are market barriers, often customers not wanting to buy certain insurance products, but yes, it is a huge topic. We are on it with our small share to promote it.
Thank you, Christoph. Since we're running out of time, I would just like to answer to that one question from Jasper. So Jasper has been asking how we do integrate arts and culture as a missing link to resilience. And I totally agree that this is a part of social resilience that our initiative is not so much addressing so far. But we would be very happy if you could join the initiative and we could complement this part as well. And maybe just quickly, Lucy, you you could respond to how cultures and arts actually plays a big role in building resilience in local communities.
Yes, thank you very much. I think even in my earlier presentation, I don't know, remember if I mentioned that when we look at issues of women, we look at also their innovations, and especially also the communities. They have different innovations, and those innovations come with art, you know, and these art and cultures are very, very crucial. And one of the important things that he has to know is that the community at the community level, everything is integrated. When we talk about traditional knowledge, we also have arts, we have cultures, and we have even songs on the way you can act and, you know, have songs, traditional music that really tells you about the farm, tell you we have had a good harvest, and this is the gain we have had, and so on. Just like the pastoralists also, who are part of the farmers in livestock production and so on in West Africa and even in the sub-Saharan Africa in general. So it's part of it, and it is very important. And for indigenous people, local community, we say we must retain our cultures, our art, our songs, our poems, and everything, because they tell a story. They tell us on what to do, even in the ecosystem restoration, when you work with the communities for them to be able to understand and the scenes of illiteracy and other issues, but there is a way you can be able to express through art. Even the artists themselves, the way they draw things is part of what we really do. And it's very important for the work that, the initiative that we have already. And it's true, he can join the wagon and help us also to bring more examples. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will try to answer the questions in the Q&A section in written words, because we have to move on, unfortunately. I want to hand over the word to our guest from Corey Microfinance, donc André. C'est parti pour vous. Je vais vous inviter de présenter son travail de Corey. Vous êtes prête?
Merci beaucoup Sabrina, merci beaucoup pour cette invitation qui nous offre une opportunité effectivement en tant qu'institution de microfinance de partager nos expériences pratiques en termes de renforcement de la résilience de nos clients sur le terrain et de effectivement vous parler de ce que nos motivations pour cette initiative. Donc, mon intervention est pour répondre à ton interpellation. Permettez-moi de remercier déjà tous les participants, mais de structurer ma présentation sur 4 points majeurs. Quelles sont déjà nos motivations pour le financement vert et ce que nous avons réalisé en termes de présentation. Nous allons vous parler de la réalisation pratique sur le terrain, nos facteurs de réussite et vraiment nos perspectives avec Yapou. Avant de démarrer, je représente une institution de microfinance qui s'appelle Corey Microfinance, qui est basée au Sénégal et qui est née depuis 2005. Donc, ça veut dire qu'elle a fait 17 ans d'expérience au Sénégal. Et aujourd'hui, cette institution se trouve parmi les 10 plus grands réseaux de microfinance basés au Sénégal. Cette institution intervient généralement en monde rural, avec 60% du portefeuille de sa clientèle qui se situe dans cette zone agricole, mais qui avait quand même des difficultés en termes de concentration de son portefeuille, qui était globalement concentré sur une seule activité, notamment l'activité commerciale. Nous avions aussi des produits financiers qui étaient peu adaptés et pour mener certaines activités, notamment les activités agricoles, parce que tout simplement nos produits financiers avaient des durées trop courtes par rapport aux spéculations agricoles, mais le mode de remboursement non plus n'était pas adapté. Alors, en période hivernale, on constatait effectivement, après des études qui ont été menées, qu'il y a beaucoup de clients qui quittaient l'institution parce que tout simplement, nos produits n'étaient pas adaptés d'une part, mais on constatait aussi pour la croissance du portefeuille en période hivernale une nette baisse. Après avoir mené des études, nous avons mené des études de satisfaction et il y a eu un fort besoin qui était exprimée par la clientèle, que Kori puisse diversifier son portefeuille, nonobstant le développement quand même des produits agricoles. Et en termes d'opportunités, nous avons pensé que sur la partie stratégique de développer quand même des opportunités pour faire du financement, carrément le financement vert. Et que du moment que nous avions déjà mis en place un produit solaire, nous avons réfléchi pour bien articuler les produits agricoles que nous allons mettre en place pour permettre aux petits producteurs agricoles, bien sûr, d'accroître leur compétitivité à travers l'autonomie énergétique et la promotion des technologies propres. Qu'est-ce que nous avons fait depuis 2015? Nous avions déjà mis en place un produit énergie et microfinance qui nous a permis quand même de développer 2 produits financiers liés aux produits solaires. Et pour les produits agricoles, nous avons mis en place 3 produits agricoles. Un produit agricole groupe, un produit agricole individuel et un produit agricole équipement pour accompagner toujours les producteurs agricoles. Alors, c'est là où le projet MEBA est arrivé, notamment dans sa phase 2. Et avec le projet MEBA, nous avons réalisé quand même 5 activités majeures, dont la révision et la validation de la plateforme Yapou. C'est quoi? C'est qu'après avoir parcouru la plateforme Yapou, qui nous a été présentée au Sénégal par une mission, Kori a suggéré des améliorations en intégrant bien sûr des données et des indicateurs d'analyse qui étaient en rapport avec les fonctionnalités de l'application. Alors nous avons suggéré des ajustements sur la méthodologie des crédits et sur le système de gestion de l'information en introduisant des indicateurs clés de la méthodologie MEBA pour bien sûr faire des vérifications sur la sensibilité afin de numériser tout le processus des crédits via la plateforme Yapou. Après, Yapou a suivi quand même nos recommandations et nous a fait une nouvelle plateforme qui a été testée et validée et nous avons lancé la phase test dans une de nos agences. Nous avions aussi travaillé avec toujours Yapou pour réfléchir sur des solutions d'adaptation. Et sur les 6 solutions d'adaptation présentées par EBA, les produits qui étaient retenus, nous avons retenu quand même 4 solutions que nous avons jugées très pertinentes, notamment l'irrigation goutte à goutte, nos producteurs agricoles, la diversification de la culture, le biodigesteur qui génère de l'engrais organique, mais aussi permet à la femme d'avoir du gaz pour pouvoir faire sa cuisine et l'engrais organique comme solution. Après, nous avons lancé la solution, c'est-à-dire la phase pilote Yapou au niveau d'une agence et nous avons fait aujourd'hui sur le traitement, sur le processus de gestion, de gestion des produits, des crédits agricoles, nous les faisons généralement sur cette agence, sur la base de cette plateforme. Aujourd'hui aussi, nous avons procédé au financement de 120 exploitants agricoles en leur dotant de biodigesteurs pour leur permettre, comme je l'ai dit, de pouvoir générer de produits de l'engrais organique. En termes de facteurs de réussite, de succès, nous avons remarqué qu'il y avait un fort engagement de nos administrateurs et une bonne coordination du processus. Et les produits agricoles qui ont été développés, bien sûr, ont été un moyen d'affirmation de notre mission sociale au profit de nos clientèles, qui sont, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, généralement des populations vulnérables et qui habitent aussi en milieu rural. Il y a eu une bonne appropriation des produits par les clients, mais aussi par le personnel, vu les gains de temps et la flexibilité qu'ils offrent par rapport aux produits de base que représente le crédit, qui était le crédit classique de Kori. Après, nous avons constaté qu'il y avait une bonne croissance du portefeuille de crédit et nous avons réalisé de bonnes performances. Nous avons remarqué aussi une bonne amélioration de notre gamme de produits, bien sûr en minimisant le risque de concentration du portefeuille sur une seule activité. Les produits agricoles aussi ont été un facteur de renforcement du plaidoyer pour courir pour le financement de l'agriculture. Et en ce sens, nous avons diversifié notre portefeuille de partenariats. Et aujourd'hui, en termes de facilitation du processus de gestion du crédit, nous avons intégré tout ce qui est des risques climatiques et de la biodiversification, la biodiversité dans la gestion des crédits. En termes de perspective, ce que nous voulons faire et continuer dans cette initiative, nous voulons capitaliser l'expérience que nous avons connue avec le projet Yapou, en mettant en application des solutions effectivement d'adaptation proposées par Yapou que nous avons validées, en vue de promouvoir les pratiques agricoles durables et respectueuses de l'environnement. Nous allons aussi généraliser la plateforme Yapou dans tout le réseau de Cori Microfinance, en quoi faisant, nous allons procéder à la digitalisation du processus de gestion des crédits, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, tout en utilisant la même démarche méthodologique pour introduire d'autres solutions EBA ainsi que la finance verte. Nous sommes en partenariat depuis 2 ans avec un fournisseur d'équipements biodigesteurs avec qui nous avons mis en place un projet d'inclusion et de développement de 8000 petits producteurs dans les chaînes de valeur agricole pour un montant global de plus de 2 milliards. Et nous voulons toujours dans cette même dynamique accroître l'accès aux énergies renouvelables et leur utilisation dans le secteur agricole en vue de meilleurs rendements. Voilà, chers participants et Sabrina, ce que nous avons comme expérience pratique sur le terrain. Et nous sommes premiers demandeurs pour adhérer à cette initiative. Et nous restons à votre disposition pour des questions de clarification. Et nous vous renouvelons quand même toute notre sollicitude pour cette invitation.
Merci beaucoup, André. Thank you so much for your perspective and for your experience on the ground. That's very important for other microfinance institutions to learn from, also if they've not yet started with their route towards green inclusive finance. We have to actually go over time a little bit. I hope that you still can stay. So right now I would like to present you or give you a quick introduction into the Yapo software. We have already heard roughly how it works. But now what is really important to understand about the Yapo software is that it enables MFIs to act as agents of change. We've already heard that there's the potential for MFIs to act as agents of change, but they themselves need the tools and the data by hand to actually be enabled to act as these agents of change on the ground. And the interesting thing about the Yapo solutions software is that it makes this triple bottom line reporting of indicators, environmental indicators possible and creates transparency, not only towards investors, but also for their own processing of digital processes to understand better how actually does climate risk impact my clients, how can I see to adapt, and how can I offer products that are especially responding to any given client's climate risk. And I think this is something that is very important in terms of decision-making, not only for the microfinance institutions themselves, but as said, these data that are created on a current and ongoing basis create a data intelligence that make us all better understand and smarter in our decision makings for investments, in our decision makings for specific climate solutions for smallholder farmers. And now I would like to show you a quick movie about that explains in detail how the Yapo software actually works. There are subtitles in French available.
We are Yapu, a company offering digital solutions for financial institutions around the world, enabling them to engage in efficient green finance. Our software digitizes all loan processes, for example, commercial, consumer, or agriculture loans, and provides financial institutions of all sizes with a complete view of their risk. It comes in two setups. Yapu platform is the easy entry into digital lending. It comes as a standardized setup, providing additional checks, for example, on green indicators. It can be tested and introduced in days, providing additional insights without introducing new processes. Yapu Digital can be flexibly customized and digitizes the whole credit process from origin to recovery. We integrate all your forms and calculations and can add additional ones from Yapu. Both can be accessed through any interface, smartphone, tablet, web browser, or it can be integrated in existing apps through APIs. And now we want to show you how this works. This is Lucia. Lucia is a loan officer working for a microfinance institution. Her job is to visit existing and potential clients to interview them to gather information about their economic situation. Thanks to Yapu, this is now digital. Grabbing her smartphone, she sets out to visit Juan, a local smallholder farmer, and asks him a number of questions about his personal details, his family situation, and his farming routines. But Juan is not only a farmer, he also runs a taxi business, and his wife works at a local shop. Lucia gathers all required information and then moves on to her next visits with a number of other clients. After the interviews, Lucia returns to her office and prepares credit committee reports with the information she gathered. Since these reports are completed automatically, Lucia saves a ton of time. The credit committee reviews the cases based on the reports and makes a decision. Most of the credits are granted. This is because of the rich basis of information that is adapted exactly to the approach of the institution. It allows for a triple bottom line analysis, including production patterns, climate and market risk, as well as social scores. The automated analysis includes all economic details for a credit decision, but also makes the green dimension of lending decisions visible. For this, we include specific indicators. The exposure indicator uses the geolocation and combines it with climate risk maps of the country. Through this, it can be determined to what degree a customer is exposed to climate threats like drought, floodings, rain, or frost. This analysis can be done for a single credit decision, but also at the portfolio level based on regularly updated data. The climate sensitivity is dedicated to the economic activity of a respective customer. It analyzes whether this activity, for example, a crop or animal husbandry or commercial activity, is sensitive to specific climate threats. The adaptive capacity is focusing on the management capabilities of a customer with regard to climate change. It takes into account general management as well as applied adaptation like drip irrigation or resilient construction materials. It can also include specific checks and questions on biodiversity risks. With the exposure indicator, the climate sensitivity, and the adaptive capacity, the climate vulnerability of a given client can be determined and guide loan decisions or recommendations. Apart from this client dimension, we also provide specific loan classification and investment verification checks. These allow financial institutions to build well-documented green portfolios and are needed to take advantage of special green financing lines. The improved analyses foster access to finance all around the world. Yapu. Smart finance. People first.
Okay, so sorry, now I moved on. I just wanted to quickly say that for all of you who participate, that you of course don't have to use the Yapu software. You don't have to buy data from CCAVs, or you don't have to be invested in from GABA Capital. This is just an offer to you as a microfinance institution, for example, that you can take. But anyway, you can participate in the Scale for Resilience initiative, of course, without using all these services. Here, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what kind of indicators the Yapu software actually offers. So a couple of them have been explained already in the video, but the software also allows a display of biodiversity conservation indicators, detailed cash flows, and offers a green microcredit verification. So these are all very important to take an informed decision about, and also to understand how does my credit or the credit that an MFI disperses unfolds impact. And with that, I want to close this event. I'm very grateful and happy that you have been celebrating this with us. Please join the initiative, spread the word. We would be very happy to make our ecosystem even stronger with your diversity and your perspective on climate resilience. And you can go with us the path together with until 2030 and beyond. We have major challenges that need to be solved, and we can only do this together with you. And you can contact us here. Let us know if you have questions. I'd be also very happy to discuss with you how you could join the initiative, and be happy to hear about your contributions. You can visit our website and join us, of course, on LinkedIn. Thank you all so much. And with that, yes, have a good afternoon, good day ahead from wherever you are joining us. And thank you so much for your attention.